Okay, next project, I'm going to try not to be too long-winded. Usually if I make a sword, this is the Frostmourne sword from Hex 3D, I believe. I would put all the blade pieces together first and then smooth everything out, fill the gaps. But I'm pretty good at it now, so I can do two pieces of the sword together and then connect that to another two that are together later, and I can smooth them together. So I'm going to glue this, get the joiner in, and then we're going to finish this sword. So this one was done 0.2 millimeter, and this was 0.3. So this would have even more layer line stepping. So I'm going to glue this and then use our process, right? Paint, sand, primer. Paint, sand, primer. I'm going to do 2 rounds more than likely because of how bad this is. But that is the next project up, filling the gap and smoothing out this sword piece. Maybe even paint it metal, even though everything I paint seems to go wrong. Okay, I have my sword blade. What is this? The tip of the Frostmourne sword. It's all epoxied together, so you can see the crack where it was joined. So it actually fit really good. So I don't think I'm going to have to do the crack first and fill it in and then level it and then do the whole sword. I'm just going to paint the whole sword at once. So first I'll just run some 80 grit over, get rid of the epoxy that leaked out of the crack. And then I will paint the sword and sand it and come back and we'll see how it looks. I think I'm just going to do one side of the sword at a time, as I don't really have anything to hold it up while I paint it. So then I would have to paint one side and then wait at least 24 hours because I don't want to put it down on any surface, right, until it's completely cured. So I'll just do one side and we'll see how it looks. One side finished anyway. I'll paint the whole sword though, probably. All right, let's see how this works out. Okay, I've got my sword all painted. So our process is simple, right? Paint with our paint, sand, prime, and then just repeat those steps if necessary. So it looks like the crack is definitely going to want, maybe I should paint that first before I sand it, but I'm not going to. I'll get it on the second round. I know I'm going to have to do 2 rounds because this is 0.3 millimeter and this piece was 0.2. I also got myself a sponge yesterday, 220 grit, so I tried it on a couple of pieces, but I'm going to try using it on this sword. If it doesn't work out very good, I'll switch to sandpaper with my hand. And I'm doing another round anyway, so I'm not worried. So I'll sand this and then we'll check it out. Okay, I've got my sword back from priming and you can still see the gap where it was put in. So I could have filled that in first, but I chose not to because it's so small. So I'm going to try to get it this round. We also got some leftover epoxy. So I'm going to sand this epoxy off first and then paint it, sand it, prime it one more time. Go for round 2. You can still see some layer lines. If I could get those on the camera, there they are. Okay, so we want all those layer lines gone. So round 2. So I have the sword sanded, and I think it's going to be just prime it and done. So that simple. Literally took 30 seconds twice to paint it and a minute to sand it. Obviously, it's not that big a piece, right? So there you go. Just use our paint, sand, and then prime. Repeat if necessary. Okay, I got my sword back, and it's looking perfect. There's the old side. There's the new side. I'm going to go risk spraying this with some chrome, I think. See if I can make it look shiny and pretty, even though I think 50% of the paint jobs I do turn out terrible. So this was very, very little work. A couple of minutes painting, a couple of minutes sanding. And, you know, I guess the easiest way to look at our paint is it's cheaper than a can of filler primer, a rattle can. And it probably does 20 times as much gap filling, layer filling, crack filling. So essentially you're just using the equivalent of spraying this with filler primer and sanding, spraying it like 15 times. We're just doing it quicker by putting it on thicker with a brush and then one sanding. So I'm gonna go spray this, let it dry, and we'll see what the final product looks like. Okay, I have my sword back. It's painted and it looks pretty good. A couple of little dust particles hit it, but nothing too bad. So I'm gonna have to do this side. And of course, when I do this side, I will probably mess up the nice side. So I'm really gonna have to do both sides at the same time, sort of again. But anyway, you can see how well it works. A few little, like I said, particles hit it, but you know, that's still a nice prop. It'd make a beautiful sword. So just, I think that was a 2-rounder, right? Paint, sand, prime, and then I put some chrome on it. That simple.